In 31 BCE, the Ionian Sea bore witness to one of the most dramatic and consequential naval battles in human history. The Battle of Actium wasn't just a clash of ships and strategy. It was a battle for power, for survival, for love, and for the soul of an empire. At its center were two of history's most captivating figures, Mark Antony and Cleopatra, a couple whose passion and ambition burned brightly but, ultimately, led them into the shadow of doom.
MegaHistory presents.
On one side of this epic struggle stood Octavian, the adoptive son and political heir of Julius Caesar. Cold, calculating, and unrelenting, Octavian had spent years consolidating power and rallying Rome against what he painted as a threat to its honor. He cast Antony as a traitor and Cleopatra as the wicked queen corrupting him, turning the might of Rome into a weapon fueled by propaganda as much as military might. Commanding his fleet was Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, one of the most brilliant naval strategists of the age, a man who understood not just how to win battles but how to dominate the seas. On the other side were Antony and Cleopatra, a couple bound by passion but increasingly divided by the weight of their ambitions. Antony, the once great general and hero of Rome, was now caught between his love for Cleopatra and his fading sense of duty to Rome. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, was a woman of unmatched intelligence and cunning. Her very presence could command loyalty or suspicion. Together, they dreamed of an Eastern empire that could rival Rome itself, but their dreams were slipping through their fingers. Antony, Cleopatra urged him on the eve of the battle, her voice calm yet edged with urgency. "We can't meet them head-on with brute force. We must fight with strategy. The sea is where I hold power. Trust me." Cleopatra's confidence was not misplaced. Her fleet was formidable, 60 powerful warships that symbolized the wealth and sophistication of Egypt. These were not mere vessels, they were floating fortresses, designed to intimidate as much as to fight. And yet, within Antony's camp, there were murmurs of dissent. Soldiers whispered questions in the shadows. Was Cleopatra truly committed to Antony's cause? Or was she protecting her throne, her Egypt, and her legacy above all else? Then came the fateful day, September 2, 31 BCE. The Ionian Sea churned beneath the hulls of over 400 ships as the two forces clashed in a spectacle of chaos and bloodshed. Octavian's fleet, expertly maneuvered by Agrippa, began to press the advantage, cutting through Antony's forces with ruthless efficiency. Amid the smoke, the screams, and the fire, Cleopatra made her move. Her fleet turned away, retreating into the open sea. Why did she do it? This question has echoed through the centuries. Was it a calculated withdrawal, a maneuver to preserve her navy and fight another day? Or was it an act of fear, a desperate flight to save herself? We may never truly know. But what we do know is that Antony's forces, seeing Cleopatra's retreat, faltered. Confusion turned to despair, and despair turned to surrender. Octavian's victory was complete. Defeated and humiliated, Antony fled back to Alexandria, to the only person he had left, Cleopatra. But this was not the triumphant return of a warrior or a leader. This was a man broken by the weight of failure, haunted by the choices that had led him here. Cleopatra, too, was a shadow of her former self. Her dreams of an empire that could rival Rome had shattered before her eyes. Together, they had dared to stand against the might of Rome, and together they now faced the consequences. The Battle of Actium was not just a military defeat. It was the beginning of the end, for Antony, for Cleopatra, and for the independence of Egypt. In the days that followed, Octavian would press his advantage, marching toward Alexandria to claim his final victory. But Antony and Cleopatra's story was far from over. Their love, their defiance, their tragedy, these would play out in a final act that has captivated the world for millennia. This battle was the turning point of an era. It marked the fall of the last great Hellenistic kingdom and the rise of Rome as an empire without rival. But it was also deeply human, a story of ambition, betrayal, love, and loss. Cleopatra, the queen who had once stood toe-to-toe with the most powerful men in the world, now stood at the edge of her own reckoning. And yet, there is something about her story that endures. It is not just her beauty or her intellect that we remember. It is her audacity. Cleopatra dared to dream of a world where she could challenge Rome, where she could forge her own destiny. She dared to love recklessly, to fight fiercely, and, ultimately, to face her end with a kind of defiance that has turned her into a legend. But her story does not end here. There is more to tell, more heartbreak, more intrigue, and one final, devastating choice that would echo through the ages. Stay with us. Next time, we'll uncover Cleopatra's final days. A tale of love, betrayal, and the ultimate sacrifice.
Like and share. Don't forget to subscribe.